All right, so to clean the machine, you're gonna go from freeze to stop, and then you're gonna put it on wash. That's gonna turn off the cooling of the hoppers and prepare you for cleaning. While that's going, you're going to come up here at the top and you're gonna remove both of your plugs here. These control how much air goes into each hopper, so you're gonna remove each of these, and then we're gonna prepare warm water to be able to clean out the hoppers, and we're gonna run through a few cycles of that. All right, so to clean the hoppers, it's pretty simple. If there's material left in here, as the machine cools down, you'll simply be able to empty it and it will come out just like regular liquid. After that's emptied, you're gonna wanna go ahead and add water to both sides. And you can really just fill it up about 3/4 full on each side. Now, depending on how long the material has been in the machine, you might have some of this material on the sides. So I usually will just go ahead and take a paper towel and just clean that off so we don't have any gunk that goes through the machine, and that just makes it a lot easier to clean. We're gonna let that run for a little bit and then we'll do our next step. All right, as you get ready to empty it out, you're gonna go ahead and pull these down. Sometimes you'll have a little bit of a blockage from frozen stuff, so you'll have some chunks pop out, which is totally normal. And you're simply gonna empty the water out. You'll wanna make sure you have a big enough container. Usually a 1 gallon pitcher will do the job here, and you're gonna be filling it up a number of times. Here we're just demonstrating cleaning out and running additional water through. You'll see the water become more clear as more material is run through the machine. All right, as you get most of the material out, you're gonna have some material on the top here, and you'll go ahead and wipe that out here before I put my next clean water through. That just helps us clean it a little bit faster. We'll go ahead and clean it up, and then we're gonna add some more clean water, and then our next step. All right, now that we've got clear water coming out, I'm gonna go ahead and just spray a little bit of cleaner in here that we're gonna use to scrub the top, and then we're gonna rinse this out a few more times. All right, once you've run enough water through, you'll have very little bubbles and the water will be clear coming out, and we're ready for our last step. All right, so now we're on to our final step. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove our tray here. We're gonna wash that here in our sink. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go ahead and stop, and then we're gonna turn off the power to the machine. All right, our final step is we're gonna remove our dispenser. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna just unscrew, and you'll have to do this just a little bit at a time, as sometimes some can be a little tighter than the others. And we're gonna go ahead and pull this off. There's gonna be a little bit of water that drips out, so I usually put a towel underneath. That's totally normal. There we go. All right, so now that we have all of our bolts here undone, we're gonna go ahead and just slide this off. We're gonna have our 2 gaskets here that we're gonna go ahead and remove and clean. And then what we're gonna do is we're actually going to remove our covers here. We're gonna remove this rod and pull out our plungers as part of the cleaning process. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and pull out this rod here. Each of these dispensers can be set off to the side. Go ahead and pull these off along with our rod. And then you can actually use these if you want to pull out each of these dispensers. They're pretty easy to pull out. Go ahead and just slide those out. Just like so. Sometimes they'll have a little material on it, which is why we're gonna clean them. So I usually will take these and my gaskets and put them in a bucket so I can keep track of them. And then we'll go ahead and pop these off so we can clean this out. All right, so we're gonna pull out our augers. When you pull these out, up at the very back, you're gonna see that there's gonna be a rubber boot. Those often will get stuck on, so you'll have to go ahead and reach your hand back in order to get that out. So we'll go ahead and just take your arm in, and you'll just grab a hold of it and it will pop right off. And we're gonna go ahead and clean that, and then we're gonna wipe this out in just a moment. All right, so with our rubber boots, and we have our augers and everything in the sink here, we now can simply just rinse and clean these. When we rinse and clean our little plungers here, they have these little rubber gaskets on. You will pull these off and just simply take soap and water, and I usually take a little brush, and we'll scrub these off to get these clean, to get all the material off of that particular item, and then we simply pop these back on after we're done cleaning. All right, so for this, cleaning this particular piece and the rest of them is pretty simple. We're simply going to take some dish soap, and we're going to go ahead and spray that on there. Take nice warm water and get that rinsed off. And you're going to want to scrub around this. Typically on this, you're going to have a lot of ice cream from all of the dispensing that goes on. So you're going to clean this. Same thing with your augers. Spray, scrub them down, and then we'll do the same thing with all of our attachments here. I put them in a bucket or a pitcher so I can keep track of them, and I'll scrub those all out so that we can assemble. Our final step is going to be wiping down inside the free cylinders. So what we'll do is we'll actually take a Clorox wipe to make sure we get that nice and clean. If we look at the very back there, that area can have buildup of some of the material, so we want to make sure that we clean around that really, really good. Anything on the inside's not too big of a worry because we have the end of the auger that goes into that. So we're going to wipe that down, make sure it's nice and sanitary, and then we're going to do the same thing to the top of the hoppers as well with those Clorox wipes. All right, so before we reinstall these, just want to call out, there is a food grade oil lube that's used for these. So you're going to get some of this here that's completely normal. You can scrub it out. But again, this is lubed up with some of that food grade lubrication. So that's not mold or anything. That's very, very normal. And now we have 3 different ones of these that have 2 different styles. So the ones that have just 2 gaskets on it, those go on your right and left. And then the one that has a gasket down the middle, that's going to go in your middle chamber. That helps prevent any spillage for your twist. All right, so to reassemble, it's very simple. Again, the 2 dispenser pieces here are going to have just the 2 stripes here, and then we're going to have the one in the middle. You're going to go ahead and just place those in till they're about that far in. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to simply set these in. You're going to have this side on the bottom, and then you'll simply feed this through one at a time. All right, then we're just going to snap these back on. Pretty self-explanatory, but we're going to have the 2 tabs are going to be facing the outside, and sometimes you do have to press a little hard to get those to snap on. All right, we're going to take our gaskets here and we're going to reassemble those. Pretty simple. You're going to have the fat sides going to be down, and those are going to sit inside each of those. All right, to assemble these, we're going to go ahead and slide these boots on, and then we're going to go ahead and slide this all the way to the back. You might have to rotate until you can find the place that it goes in. Once it's in, you'll be able to actually push in, and this will be inside that little lip of the free cylinder. So, like that, like that. All right, to reassemble this, you're going to have these pressed all the way up so they can fit underneath your dispense bar up there. So we're going to go ahead and slide these on. For our bolts here, the tall ones go on the top. That's so you can clear this bar right here. And what I'll usually do is just start threading it to hold it in place. And then you're going to work it through a little at each time so that we can make sure it seals correctly. Now, to make sure it seals correctly, we're going to be able to see on this side how it seals. All right, so as you're tightening these, it's going to push this in, and you'll notice as it tightens, it's going to actually push all the way in so that seal is tight. So that's why you want to work a little bit at each time to make sure that it seals correctly. All right, so last step of reassembly, we're gonna go ahead and put the cleaned drip tray right here. And then we're gonna put our cleaned hopper plugs. Now these hopper plugs have different holes on them that are different sizes. That helps with airflow. So we have large, medium, and small. Because most of the time this is gonna be covered under fluid, up at the top here, you have a little arrow that tells you where the actual hole is, and then you can see the small, medium, and large there. So they're like a little recessed piece. But that can allow you to adjust more or less air going in, and that helps with the fluffiness of the ice cream. All right, so these are really simple to put in. I prefer to put these in before I put material in so I can measure how high. Sometimes you wanna put a little bit of water material on, and you simply go ahead and just pop those in place. And then either now or later, you can adjust what hole you want for your material.